So we have to see exactly how these three types of validation processes are being undertaken. First of all, the theoretical meaning of convergent validity. An instrument or a construct possesses convergent validity when different scales within that measures or different scales applied in the construct correlates each other. Say, for example, suppose if you are studying about the financial behavior of individuals. Say, for example, you are studying about the positive financial behavior of an individual. As all know, positive financial behavior includes behavior with respect to different walks of life of individuals, like behavior with respect to the earning of income, spending, saving and investment, credit, budgeting and planning, and so on. If you consider all these dimensions as subparts of positive financial behavior of an individual, or in other words, for measuring the positive financial behavior of a person, suppose if you take all these together as a collective measure, then the different measures used for or different scales used for the behavior with respect to income earning, expenditure, savings and investment, credit, planning and budgeting, all these should be correlated. That is, convergent validity is actually done by examining how far the scales in a particular construct correlates. Say, take our own case. I have already told you several times my own case. For the measurement of customer relationship management orientation, I had used 5 different scales like trust, bonding, empathy, shared value, personalized communication. If these are the different components of CRMO, then all the 5 components or all the 5 scales should be correlated, and the correlation should be significant. That is the condition for ensuring convergent validity. That means, theoretically, that means when all of them are correlated, all of them together, when all of them pulled together, becomes one construct or one measure. Otherwise, if a particular scale is not at all related with others, that cannot be considered for the measurement of the construct. Okay, and let's take discriminant validity. Discriminant validity is the extent to which measures does not correlate with other constructs from which it's supposed to differ. All the scales within the construct must be correlated, but if any other scale which is outside the boundary of this particular construct and not at all related as per theory should not be correlated. That is the condition for ensuring discriminant validation. Say, for example, I have already told you, I have developed a mass banking scale for the purpose of ensuring discriminant validation. Mass banking. When we study about relationship banking, mass banking is totally against relationship banking. I have already told you the theory about it. In case of relationship banking or relationship marketing, actually the customers are divided in different segments on the basis of their relative value. And the services, products, and facilities are offered to the customers on the basis of their value. That means the high-end customers are provided with maximum facilities and personalized services. But in case of low-end customers, the care and services given to them will be less. The banker will not provide personalized products for such customers. But in case of mass banking, all the customers will be provided similar products, similar services, similar treatment. That means for a housing loan or for a vehicle loan and such other products, the rate of interest will be uniform in case of all customers. But in case of relationship banking, the rate of interest depends on the relative worth of the customer. That's important. So theoretically, the mass banking and CRMO are entirely different, moves in opposite direction. And I have explained the reliability calculations yesterday with the help of another data set, which also speaks about customer centricity in non-banking financing companies, where there were some scales for measuring customer centricity, where I have used a mass marketing as a scale for ensuring this discriminant validity of the instrument. That is, when there is customer centricity in a banking, in a non-banking financing company, the mass banking orientation of the staff in the NBFC will be less. That means these customer centricity and mass marketing orientation will be moving in opposite direction. So in this way, we can ensure discriminant validity of an instrument. And the third one is the nomological validity. Nomological validity is the extent to which the scales correlates in theoretically predicted ways with measures of different but related constructs. See, in our last class, I have shown you the development of scale for business performance. The business performance scale is used for ensuring this nomological validity. Actually, there is an objective with respect to that. But even then, in case of a non-banking financing company, if it is if the customer centricity of the bank is high, automatically the performance of the NBFC will be better. So there is a positive. Theoretically, we expect a positive relationship between the customer centricity and the business performance. In my own study also, I had a hypothesis that customer-centric or customer relationship management orientation of bank branches is positively associated with or positively related with the performance of the bank branches. So performance theoretically positively correlates with the customer centricity and customer relationship management orientation. So this performance is taken as an outcome. Say, for example, in case of a study dealing with financial well-being of human beings, financial well-being will definitely lead to financial satisfaction. So there is a relationship between these two. That is, there is a positive relationship between these two. Several examples can be cited. Okay, so we have to learn about these three types of validations. The process is simple. You always remember, all these validation processes are done with the help of correlation. That is the most important thing. So we have to learn in detail about correlation analysis. You know exactly what is correlation and how correlation is to be calculated, and you have studied and you are teaching in a correlation. But I would like to say something very basic aspects regarding correlation. We know that correlation is the extent of relationship between two or more variables. When we have two variables, likely trust and business performance. these two variables, if they are separate variables, we can say that they are correlated when one variable is moving in line with the other variable, or one variable is moving opposite to the other variable. That means the correlation can be of positive and negative. We have already learned. That means when all the variables used for studying correlation are moving in the same direction, that is, increase in one variable is accompanied by increase in other variable, decrease in one variable is accompanied by decrease, that is positive correlation. Or on the other hand, when an increase in one variable is accompanied by a decrease in the other variable, we call it as a negative correlation. That is, variables are moving in opposite direction. Okay, so correlation measures the degree of relationship between two or more variables. And you always remember, correlation tell you something about the degree of relationship only. And it never shows any cause and effect relationship. That means, say for example, if you compute correlation between two variables and if it is found to be 0.8, that doesn't mean one variable is causing the other variable, or one variable is a reason for the other variable. That is, cause and effect relationship is not explained in case of correlation. It simply says whether relationship between two variables are significant or not. That's all. And we are expected to learn two different correlations, out of which I will be dealing only one today. That is Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation and Spearman's coefficient of correlation. Whatever be, we know that correlation ranges in between -1 and +1. So 0 is a number lying in between minus and plus. So 0 stands for no correlation. Always remember, that's very important. And let me tell a very important reality while applying Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation. Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation can be applied in a research only when the variables are normally distributed. That's a very fundamental condition to be satisfied. So normality should be satisfied. So now the question, how is it possible to check normality? Okay, so first of all, we are going to study how the normality of a variable is to be checked. Okay, normality. I would like to show only one or two examples regarding normality and non-normality. Okay, my dear friends. In our last session, we have constructed some scales like OC, that is organizational capability, ST, that is structure, BP, business performance, and so on. So I would like to show you exactly how the normality is to be checked. Before checking the normality of an instrument, you can go through some important steps, especially with regard to the histogram of the distribution you are going to check normality. Okay, so first of all, for taking a chart, you have to click on graph, then come to legacy dialogues, and you take histogram. Okay, if in your computer display normal curve is not marked, click it and take the variable which you want to test the normality. So I would like to test normality of organizational capability. Okay, select it and put it here and click OK. See, this is the diagram you are actually getting. See, very easy to compute, very easy to construct a diagram like this. You may be remembering the characteristics of a normal distribution. We will definitely discuss some of the important characteristics of the normal distribution at the time of testing a hypothesis. Today, we have to deal with so many aspects. So I will be proceeding with the next one. That is the test. This is not the test for normality. So see, for testing normality, you go to analyze, click on it. You come to non-parametric test. Come to non-parametric test. Take down. We will not repeat the process again and again because we don't have enough time. Non-parametric test. From non-parametric test, we have to come to legacy dialogues and one sample chaos test. One sample chaos test is the test for normality. Click on it. We want to see the normality of organizational capability. Here in the normal box is already selected. Don't want to select it again. So give OK. See, this is a very simple test. While clicking, you will get this. Look at the figures there. N stands for number of sample. Normal parameters mean 4.0175. Standard deviation is 0.430. Then most extreme differences are there. You don't want to worry about it now. And the KSZ, that is a statistic, is 1.337. And significance is 0.056. Okay. Those who are actually not so familiar about the SPSS or the software-based testing of hypothesis may find something difficult in the interpretation of the result. But those who have some sort of understanding may mislead while seeing this particular significance. Normally, when the significance value is equal to or more than 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected and an alternative hypothesis, and we say that null hypothesis is not right. But in this case, that is chaos test, we are not putting the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis is established by the people who have developed this test. The null hypothesis in this case is the distribution. In this case, the null hypothesis is the distribution of organizational capability with mean 4.0175 and standard deviation 0.4305 is normal. Is normal. That is the hypothesis. And the value is more than 0.05. That means the null hypothesis is true. That means the null hypothesis is true. If the value is lower than 0.05, the null hypothesis will be rejected. Otherwise, the null hypothesis should be accepted or adopted. Not exactly accepted, adopted. So whenever the significance value in case of chaos test is equal to or exceeding 0.05, that distribution is normal. Otherwise, that distribution is not normal. That's very important. All of you must write down the hypothesis of chaos test and how inference is to be made. When the significance value is equal to or exceeding 0.05, the distribution for which the test has been conducted can be accepted as or can be considered as normally distributed, not exactly normally distributed, approximately normally distributed. Okay, approximately normally distributed. That's very important. We can take one more example to see. In all cases, this is possible. Okay, another one. You can take any one. Non-parametric test, legacy, one sample case, okay, take one. And give okay. You see this. See this. The second column. Second column stands for CU, that is the current addition. The significance value is 0.000. That means it is less than 0.05. That means the distribution of CU is not normally distributed. Not normally distributed. My dear friends, you remember, always remember, you have to collect original data with high degree of precision. Then only you will be able to come up with a distribution which is actually normal. Otherwise, the distribution will not be normal. If a distribution is not normal, you will not be able to execute even a correlation testing. That is, Karl-Pearson's coefficient of correlation can be calculated, can be tested on the premise that the variables used for the analysis are normally distributed. Otherwise, we can't do it. Always remember, that's a very important property, very important criteria, condition to be satisfied. Okay, that's all about the one sample chaos test that is for applied for normality. That's very important. It's a very important learning for the day. Okay, so we are again moving back to correlation. Okay, normality is very important. So when we are calculating correlation, or we simply assume when we test correlation, we simply assume that the samples are drawn from a population which is normally distributed. Samples are drawn from a population which is normally distributed. When the population is normally distributed and the samples are drawn on a random basis, automatically the sample distribution also will be normally distributed. That is the basic idea behind this. Okay, now we have to see exactly how to test the correlation, how to calculate the correlation. Okay. See, this is another data set. Suppose if you want to calculate correlation between two variables. First thing is, you are expected to go to analyze, then come to correlation, then come to bivariate. Okay, now you get a dialog box like this. Okay, you want to calculate correlation between mutual trust and emotional relationship strength. You put both the variables. If you want to, when we calculate correlation between two variables, we call it as simple correlation. And when we calculate more than two correlation between more than two variables, we call it as multiple correlation. Now we are experimenting with simple correlation. Okay, give okay. See, this is the correlation matrix. Correlation between Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation between mutual trust and relationship strength is 0.844. And the significance value is 0.000. That means correlation between mutual trust and relationship strength is significant. Both these variables are highly correlated and the relationship is significant even at 1% level of significance. That is, with a 99% confidence, you can say that these two variables are correlated, even though this is given in a 2x2 matrix. The same information is given. You need only this 0.844. Okay. So naturally arise a question: what is this test? Whenever we are testing, whenever we compute the testing, the difference between two means of different samples or within particular sample, we compare two things. Two numerical values are being compared for testing the significance. But here we have only one value, that is 0.844, that is the correlation. So naturally there may be a doubt in the mind of the researchers. Even for experienced researchers, this may be a doubt. Actually, we have to learn exactly what is the alternative hypothesis to be made by a researcher while testing correlation. The alternative hypothesis is the population correlation is not equal to 0. Population correlation is represented by phi, phi. It is represented by way of a p, not exactly p. So population correlation coefficient is not equal to 0. 0, I have already told you. 0, for the purpose of computing correlation, represents a state where there is no relationship between the variables. So population correlation not equal to 0 means population correlation can be less than 0 or more than 0, can be a negative value or a positive value. And when we see the significance value here as 0.000, that means the population correlation is positive and is significantly higher than 0. The sample correlation is 0.844. On the basis of the sample correlation, we are able to say something about the population. We say that the population correlation coefficient is positive and it is significantly higher than 0. That's the meaning of this, the testing of this correlation. Okay, so we now know exactly how to test correlation. This is an essential requirement for knowing the validation, how to conduct the validation. So we are moving on to proceed with validation. Okay. Last day we have discussed about this particular thing. That is about, this is actually a database which is artificially created for the purpose of this workshop, not an original database. Okay, so we want to see how the validation process is to be done. First of all, we are dealing with convergent validity. What is this convergent validity? In case of convergent validity, we are testing whether the scales belonging to a particular construct are positively correlated. Remember, that is the most important thing. That all the scales used for the measurement of a particular construct are positively, whether they are positively correlated or not. That is the most important criteria. And so I have different constructs for the measurement of customer centricity. Okay, while applying this, you have to test the normality of all the scales, but we are not doing that. Since it is an artificially created data set, I am not doing that. You have already studied exactly how to check the normality and so on. So first of all, I would like to test the convergent validity of our instrument used for measuring customer centricity in non-banking financing companies. So going to analyze. I have already told you these validation processes are done only with the help of correlation. That too, Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation. So correlation, then bivariate correlation. So now we have to select the scales, all the scales used for the measurement of customer centricity. Okay, the first one is CU, that is culture. Then IC, that is internal commitment. EC, that is employee capability. RQ, that is relationship quality. RT, that is relationship trust. And MA, that is marketing, customer-centric marketing. MM is not taken into account for this purpose because MM is not a part of customer centricity. MM is a variable which is lying outside customer centricity. And one more thing is OC. These are the different components of customer centricity. We are planning to test the correlation between all these variables. You remember what we actually need. We need a positive correlation between all these variables, and the correlation must be significant. That is the requirement. Need positive correlation between all variables, and the correlation should be significant. Okay, so give OK. This is the matrix showing correlation between variables. You can see you actually you need only a part of this matrix. Both the sides are showing same thing. So you can take only one part. You can see one diagonally. That is the correlation between CU and CU. Definitely we know that when when the same variables are correlated, the value of correlation will be 1. Then CU with IC, it is 0.829. CU with EC, it is 0.365, and so on. So you look at all significance values here. In all these cases, the significance values are 0. Look, what we actually need. If we are testing a hypothesis at 5% level of significance, the significance value should be less than 0.05. Here it is all significance values are 0.000. That means all of them are less than 0.05, and the correlation, all the variables used for, or all scales used for the makeup of customer centricity are positively correlated, and hence convergent validity is there. So convergent validity is ensured by taking the correlation between all the components of customer centricity. That's all. You need to take only one part. Okay. The top or bottom part. About the convergent validation. Now we are moving on to the discriminant validity. So what is this discriminant validity? Discriminant validity actually says the extent to which measures does not correlate with other constructs from which it's supposed to differ. Suppose if a particular scale is supposed to differ from our construct, there should not be any correlation, or if there is, if we anticipate a negative correlation with our construct, then that should be possible. That is the requirement. So I would like to show you exactly how to compute our master construct, that is customer centricity. I have already told you there are so many components for customer centricity, but here we don't have the scale for customer centricity. Customer centricity will be either sum of all the constraints, all the components, or the average of all the components. So how to compute it? You simply go to transform, compute variable. What do you want to calculate? Customer centricity. I take it as CC, customer centricity. Okay. So see what are the components of customer centricity. I have already told you what are the components. The components include CU, that is culture, customer centric culture. Put a comma there. Then internal commitment of the employees. Then employee capability. Then relationship quality. Then relationship trust. Relationship marketing. Then organizational capability. Okay. So for calculating the mean, here I am not summating, calculating the mean of all these. Different components are culture, internal commitment, employee capability, relationship quality, relationship trust, then relationship marketing and organizational capability. One more is there, that is structure. Okay, take it. That is relationship structure is an important component. Okay, so I'm going to calculate the mean. Okay, give okay. You can't see anything in output part. You have to go to the original data set and can see a new variable. See here, the new variable CC is constructed. The average of all these components, CC is constructed. Actually, I have a scale for mass marketing. We have already calculated it as it is named as MM. Now we have another scale for customer centricity. Theoretically, the marketing theory very clearly says that customer centricity and mass marketing orientation are negatively correlated. If I am able to establish that customer centricity and mass marketing are negatively correlated, I will be able to establish or I will be able to say that my instrument is possessing discriminant validity. Okay, so going on to test the correlation between CC and MM. Okay, so analyze, go to correlation, bivariate, all the old ones are to be sent back. So, okay, see this. See this table. The sign of the correlation is 0.635 and the sign is minus. That means customer-centric orientation and mass marketing are negatively correlated, and that correlation is significant. Okay. So by putting this alone, I can say that my instrument possesses discriminant validity. Okay, now I have to show you something regarding, so going on to graphs, legacy dialog box. You can take the scatter and choose simple scatter. So you have to say in x-axis which one is coming and in y-axis which one is coming. So we have calculated the correlation between CC, one is taken as Y and other one is taken as those. Mass marketing is taken as another one. Okay, you give okay. See, this is the way by which actually we actually take the plot. Okay, moving on. Okay, now we have to see whether the instrument is possessing the nomological validity. The third validation is nomological validity. So what does it say? Nomological validity says the scales belonging to a construct should behave or should be correlated in the way in which, correlated with another scale in the way in which the theory predicts or theory says. So we know that in our instrument, we have different components for customer centricity, and there are some outcomes for customer centricity in non-banking financing companies. One outcome is business performance. For that, we have a scale here. We have established a scale. The numerical values are being computed. So we can correlate all the components of customer centricity with the business performance. Okay, going on to analyze, then correlate, bivariate, first of all, the components of customer centricity, CU, IC, EC, RQ, RT, MA, then OC, and ST, we have to correlate it with the business performance. That is the outcome variable. What we need, the theory says there is a positive correlation between centricity and business performance. So we are trying to connect all the components of centricity with business performance. So correlation, see this. You look at this column, that is business performance, or this row. You can see this row. All the values are 0, 0, 0. That means all the components of customer centricity are significantly correlated with the business performance, which is being predicted by the theory. Our findings is similar to that of the theory predicted. So we are able to say that our instrument or our research instrument is possessing nomological validity. Okay, that is the way. This is the way by which the validation process is to be done while doing analysis of primary data without the help of structural equation modeling. If you are going for structural equation modeling, the validation process is something different. Not a drastic difference, but something different. Okay. So I hope you have a comparatively good understanding about the aspects we have discussed. Today we have discussed so many things. I have told you about correlation and testing significance of correlation. Told you about the testing of normality, that is case test, and also talked to you about the 3 different types of validation. Okay, so we are moving on to another very, very important aspect, that is exploratory factor analysis. Exploratory factor analysis. I'm actually moving on to exploratory factor analysis because there are some reasons behind. There is a connectivity between exploratory factor analysis and the reliability, validity, etc. All the researchers are expected to know exactly when should we apply a reliability and the normal scaling procedure we have actually studied. Say, for example, I have told you several times, from the theory, I came to an understanding that relationship management or relationship marketing has different components, and the components include trust, bonding, personalized communication, and so on. I'm able to say these are the components because there is a strong theory behind that. But in many cases, especially in many social science research areas, there may not be such theories, or the theory may not be so strong to say these are the components of a particular phenomenon. So you have to establish, you have to find what are the components. If this is the case, you are expected to identify different variables related to your study. And then you have to classify the variables into different heads. The process is exploratory factor analysis. Okay. So first of all, I would like to tell you some important terms which are actually used in factor analysis. You remember, this is a very serious, very, very serious analysis. So there are 2 different types of factor analysis. One is descriptive factor analysis or technically or very popularly known as exploratory factor analysis. Exploratory. We are exploring. The researcher is exploring what are the components of a particular phenomenon. And another one is confirmatory factor analysis, which we are not discussing at present because it is not suited at present. Okay, we have exploratory factor analysis and confirmatory factor analysis. So we have to know exactly some important terms. For those who are actually listening to this particular statistical tool first time, may feel some sort of difficulties. You remember, all on a sudden, these theoretical aspects cannot be studied. Whoever be the teacher, whoever be the learner, it is very difficult to learn everything in a single sitting. You have to listen to my session several times, especially in this area, and you have to read some standard materials for getting a detailed understanding about everything related to factor analysis. That is important. You have to sit and sit, read and read. So many times, you read maximum number of times about different terms which are being used. A factor is a group of correlated variables that represent a unique component of a larger group of variables. So what is this factor? Factor is a group of correlated variables. That is important. Group of correlated variables. In a factor, a group of variables are fixed. The thing is that the most important requirement is that the variables should be correlated. See, similar is the case of a scale also while checking the reliability. We are checking the reliability, and in checking reliability, we are to look at the item to total correlation. That is also correlation. That is, we ensure that all the variables within a scale are correlated. Okay, so a factor is also a group of correlated variables that represent a unique component of a larger group of variables. Okay, say if there is no scale for the measurement of trust or measurement of the credit behavior of a person, then you are to read everything related to credit behavior from the available literature and collect all variables which are connected to the behavior. And then you have to come up with those variables which are correlated to represent the factor that is the credit behavior. That is the idea behind it. And another important factor to be understood by a student or a researcher, sorry, you guys are not students, teachers and researchers, that is factor loadings. That refers to the correlation between each variable and the newly correlated separate factors. From different variables, or by using different, by putting different variables together, we construct a factor. So how far the variables are correlated with the factor? That is, we have a numerical value for the factor. That numerical value is related with the numerical value of each variable, and we see exactly how far these variables are related with the factors. So that is what is known as factor loading. That is very important for the factor analysis. Factor loadings can range in between -1 to +1. That is actually the correlation. That's why it is in between -1 to +1. -1 shows that, say for example, if in case of a factor, a particular variable is showing minus, that means it is negatively related to that phenomenon. It is related, but negatively related. If it is positive, that means it is positively related to that phenomenon. Okay, factor loading is very important. Then another important factor is communalities. You definitely will see these terms while conducting factor analysis. That's why I'm explaining all these at present. Okay, communalities represents the proportion of variability in the original variable that is accounted for by the high loading factors. the proportion of variability in the original variable. We have studied about variability. We have studied about the scatterness. We have studied about dispersion. That's what I am talking. Okay, the proportion of variability in the original variable, that is accounted for by the high loading factors. High loading factors means those factors for which the loading is maximum. We know that. We have already studied about loading. When loading is high or maximum, how much these high loading factors account for the variability. That is what is known as communalities. We can again, I will definitely explain the concept again while doing the original analysis. And eigenvalue. Eigenvalue is actually a number that specifies the amount of variation in the original variables that can be attributed to a particular factor. These are actually used for determining the number of factors to be selected. Eigenvalues are actually used for determining the number of factors to be selected. How many factors are to be selected out of the given factors is purely based on eigenvalue. It's actually a number, a numerical value that specifies the amount of variation. Say, for example, if there are 20 different variables you have put in a bundle for doing exploratory factor analysis, and if you get a particular factor, the eigenvalue of that particular factor shows how much variation in the original variable is explained by this particular factor. Okay, this also can be explained to you while doing the analysis. Actually, while doing an exploratory factor analysis, the researcher will not put a hypothesis, but there is a hypothesis. The researcher is not at all required to put a hypothesis, but in his mind or in her mind, there is a hypothesis. There must be a hypothesis. This hypothesis states that there are no latent underlying structures and that all variables load equally. There are no latent underlying structures and all variables load equally. We simply believe that. You take the last one. We believe that, or we assume that all variables load equally. That is a null hypothesis put forward by the researcher. But the researcher's hypothesis is something different. You remember, whenever we speak about null hypothesis, it is a general statement, and the researcher's hypothesis will be something different. If researcher believe that all variables load equally, then there is no need for factor analysis. Researcher definitely believe that the variables have different types of loading, or the variability that can be explained by different variables differ. That is the assumption, or that is the belief of the researcher. And the researcher actually need to identify those variables which create or which causes maximum variability. Okay, that is the thing while to be remembered by the researcher while doing a factor analysis. Okay. Okay, we are moving on to another okay, now coming to the original. See this. This is another database. I have already explained it to you, something about this. We can see the variable view of this. Then only you will be able to understand. I have labeled the variables to PSP1, 2, 3, up to 30. Up to 30. That means there are 30 variables here. Actually, what is my objective here? The reality in Kerala is people in Kerala used to open bank accounts with different banks. That means a person having a bank account with SBI may have an account with ICICI or with HDFC and so on. Suppose if somebody asks, which bank is your primary financial service provider, or which bank you love to deal with? That's the question. Which bank you love to deal with? Say, for example, whenever you want a home loan or a car loan or a personal loan, or you want to make an investment, which bank will be in your mind? That is the question. That's a big question. So finding an answer to this, I have gone through the literature, Indian as well as international literature, and I found that no much theoretical constructs are available in international literature, because international customers, especially Westerners, don't have the practice of dealing with several banks. But in case of Indian customers, especially customers of Kerala, because of banking penetration and due to the relationship with bank staff and due to so many other factors, we do have a number of bank accounts with different banks. Some of them may be dormant, some of them may be operational to a certain extent. Occasionally, you may go and deal with, but with some banks, you may have a regular dealing. So what prompts you to regularly deal with a particular bank? The literature, while going through the literature, I found that there are so many reasons, but the reasons for this is not exactly studied and not classified. So I'm not able to make different scales for this. Difficult to identify what are the factors. While going through, I got 30 variables, actually more than 30 variables, but after making comparison with variables, I have decided to put 30 variables. I have already told you how this kind of a huge number of variables can be dealt with. Suppose if the customers or the respondents are asked to rank different variables, is it possible for them to go through all the variables and rank? It is practically not possible. So what I done, you look at the values column. Note that. Okay. This actually stands for, this is a 7-point scale. For coding purpose, I have given R, but it is in original questionnaire, I have given most important, and like. Okay. So with 30 variables, if you are planning to do an analysis, practically impossible for a researcher to manage all this. So naturally arise a question, is there any possibility for consolidating some of the variables together? That is, similar variables. Can a researcher club similar variables to form a construct or a factor? Can I make some factors? Here we have so many factors, and can I reduce the number of factors? That is, whether I can go for a factor reduction. So a factor analysis is actually a process adopted by a researcher with the help of a software to combine the variables into different factors and reduce the size of the variable. Okay. The 30 variables may be reduced to 5 or 6 or 7 or 3 or 4. If it can be reduced to 3 or 4, then we will be able to analyze more seriously. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for us to conduct any analysis. Okay, that is the thing in my mind. Okay. So how the factor analysis can be done? Going to the data view of the okay. You please write down the steps. Analyze. Come down. Dimension reduction. Dimension reduction. Dimension reduction. Analyze. Dimension reduction. Then to factor. Okay. Then to factor. Okay. Then you have to select all the variables. I have already told you, I have coded with PSP1, PSP2, PSP3 up to PSP30. It is being selected now. Put it in the variables column. Put it in the variables column. We have 30 variables here. Okay. If you are doing descriptive factor analysis, you have to click descriptives. That is, exploratory is descriptive. So click univariate and initial solution. Then KMO and Bartlett's test of sphericity. These are important. KMO and Bartlett test of sphericity are very, very important as far as factor analysis is concerned. Then continue. Extraction actually we don't want. It is actually we need this one. Okay, if it is if you need unrotated factor solution in display board, you have to click unrotated factor solution, and a script plot also to be clicked. Okay, two things are to be clicked. Everything else is de facto. So continue. Next, another very important thing is the rotation. We have different options, methods of rotation, different methods of rotations are there. Under different circumstances, different rotation methods are actually applied. And in exploratory factor analysis, we usually apply Varimax rotation. Click on it, Varimax. And in display board, you have to click a rotated solution. Rotated solution. Okay, then continue. Okay, nothing is to be used here. If you want to save this variable, you click here. Here I am not applying that. In the coming sessions, if a need arises, I can show that option also. So continue. Options is also a very important thing. Click on it. And here, exclude case-wise cases list-wise. That's there. Don't want to do anything. You click on sorted by size. That is a very useful option, sorted by size. So continue. The processes are over. Again, don't worry. Again, I will show the same thing. You don't want to worry about it. These are the processes to be done. So give OK. The first table is descriptive statistics that shows mean, standard deviation, and N. N is given as 566. That means the sample size is 566 in this database. The mean and the standard deviation of all the variables are given here. You don't want to bother about it. It's there. All the 30. You check whether all variables are here. It must be there. All variables must be here. Okay, 30. All the 30 variables are here. Don't want to worry too much about it. This is the most important thing. That is KMO and Bartlett's test. These are the statistics that are actually say whether factor analysis is possible or not. With your data, whether factor analysis is permissible or not is decided by KMO, that is Kaiser-Meyer-Olkin measure of sampling adequacy, and Bartlett's test of sphericity. Okay, here we have to learn some standards or benchmarks. In our analysis, the KMO statistic is 0.921. While dealing with reliability, I have told you the minimum Cronbach alpha is 0.7. Likewise, here also there is a standard. The minimum KMO that is required for executing factor analysis is 0.6. That is minimum only, the very minimum. The maximum is 1. When the KMO is equal to or exceeding 0.9, factor analysis is at most suitable for this set of variables. KMO is, minimum KMO requirement is 0.6. If it is 0.7 or more, that is good. If it is 0.8 or good, it's very good. And if it is more than 0.9, then it says this data set is excellent for doing factor analysis. In that sense, practice will find a good solution. That is the guarantee given by KM. And Bartlett's test is also very important. You have to see the significance value. That is actually applied with the help of chi-square. The significance value is 0.000. We need a benchmark. The significance value should be, cannot exceed 0.05. Cannot exceed 0.05. It should be lower than 0.05. Even if it is 0.05, it is there is no problem. It should be less than 0.05. Here it is 0.000. Definitely, I will give some materials for reading about factor analysis. You have to read everything with respect to KMO, Bartlett's test, and so on. Only after reading, the doubts raised from this part will be cleared. Okay, you remember. So that is in both the measures are actually favorable to us. Now we have to see communalities. See, I have already told you what is communalities. Initial values should be 1. Communalities should be 1. Extracted values are here. The maximum communality value is 1. And all these figures are comparatively better. You don't want to worry about this communality. It is actually not used much for analysis. See, this is a very, very important table. I have already told you something about the factors. I have, or we had 30 different variables. What we were actually trying? Actually, we were trying to reduce the number of variables. That is, we were trying to combine some variables together to form a factor, and to make different factors so that the number of variables can be limited. So looking at the total variance explained statement, you can decide how many factors are here. See, look at the initial eigenvalues. Eigenvalues also I have explained. Those components with eigenvalue equal to or exceeding 1 alone are considered as independent factor. Once again, I would like to repeat, all those components, these are components. Component simply refers to the factor. All those components or all those factors whose initial eigenvalues equal to or exceeding 1 alone can be considered as separate factors. That means there are 4 different factors with eigenvalues greater than or equal to 1. The first one is 11.173, second one is 9.052, and third one is 3.257, and the fourth is 2.205. That means 30 factors are, or 30 variables are decomposed into 4 factors. What a beautiful way of doing research. 30 different variables are combined to form 4 different factors. And looking at the eigenvalues, you can say which one is explaining maximum variability. The factor with the highest eigenvalue explains maximum variability. Here you look at the percentage of variance. 37.243% of variance is explained by the factor 1 alone. 37.243. This is initial value. We have to look at the rotated sum of squares loading that gives the correct one. So rotated value gives 30.986% of the total variance is explained by component 1 itself. Out of 30 variables, the first factor actually explains 30% or almost 31% of the variance. And the next factor actually explains 25.963%. Third one explains 14.826%. And the last one explains 13.846%. So look at the last one, cumulative percentage. This is also very important, very, very important. 85.621% of the total variance of the 30 variables is explained by these 4 together. That is a wonderful, this is actually a wonderful instrument, a wonderful finding. You see 85.621% of the total variance is explained by 4 factors. 30 variables are combined together or combined into 4 factors. Now we have to look at 4 variables only, 4 factors only. You don't want to worry about the entire 30. That is the thing. Okay, similar is the case of the scale. In scale, we have different sets of statements or different well-defined theory. On that basis, we make scale. But here, we don't have established theories. So we have identified the variables and put them together and factor analyzed. And this particular factor analysis helped us to reduce the size of the data from 30 to 4. Okay, that's important. While looking at this particular table, only up to this fourth component is important. Below, all below are not at all important. You look here. All are having eigenvalue lower than 1, so we will not consider them. We consider only four approved factors. See, another one, scree plot. Scree plot is a graphical representation of the variability of the different factors. Variability explained by different factors. See here, this shows the upper one shows the first factor. This one is the second factor. Then this one is the third factor. Then fourth factor, and so on. While coming at the bottom, you can see the slope is very limited. Here the slope is maximum, but here the slope from here, this point, slope is minimum. So when some factors cannot explain variance, this slope actually shows the variance. So the factors from 5 to 30 actually can explain very little, so we avoid them. They cannot actually explain the variance, so we simply put them away, throw them away. So we take only 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. From this point, we don't want to consider. That's what the scree plot is telling you. Okay, look here. Okay, this is not so important. We have rotated component metrics here. This is important. Okay, different factors are arranged here. See, component number 1 or factor number 1. The selection, we have to follow some principles for the selection of different variables into different components. Here, the variables are actually arranged on the basis of the numerical value. See, if you see this component number 1 shows values 0.988, 983, 982, 980, and so on up to 0.831. That is from the highest to the lowest, it is being arranged. So you remember, a particular variable can be included in a particular component when the loading is at least 0.4. 0.5 is better. The minimum requirement is 0.4. All those values or all those variables which have a lower than 0.4, the loadings lower than 0.4 are simply rejected from that particular component. So we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 items forms component number 1. These 10 items forms component number 1. Then you can see the values, all values coming at the bottom side of this table are negligible, very limited. That means the values are lower than 0.4. And you also must compare. These values must be compared with these values. The values in these variables are also considered for the construction of component 2, component 3, and component 4. But you see the values, the numerical values are lower than this value. Say, for example, in case of first one, that is comfortable seating arrangement is the first one in component number 1. The loading is 0.988. The other values are 0.029, 0.006, and minus 0.021. That means this particular variable is not considered for factor 2, factor 3, and factor 4. This is considered only for factor 1. Okay, see factor number 2. This from here, excellent e-banking facility, high speed and clean ATMs, automated environment, always working ATM, professionalism of the branch manager, knowledge of the staff regarding operations, readiness to give real-time services, then up to ability of the staff to provide quick service. All these variables comes under factor number 2. All this together becomes factor number 2. And look at factor number 3. Factor number 3, readiness of the staff to give financial advice, fast redressal mechanism, positivism of the staff, trustworthiness of the manager and staff, genuineness of the manager and staff, presence of staff who know me. That is not loading here. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables in factor number 5. And in factor number factor number 3. In factor number 4, we have presence of staff who know me, readiness of the staff to speak to me, caring and helping mentality, staff with the ability to understand my needs, listening capacity of the staff. These variables form factor number 4. Now the question is, we have to label different variables coming under different factors. So comfortable seating arrangement, good interior decoration. You suppose if it is, first of all you have to name it. All these, the first factor, you have to name it. Have you ever seen any factor in marketing literature dealing with all these factors? Not exactly the same, but almost similar. If you go through the variables, you can put a name for that. Comfortable seating arrangement, good interior decoration, neat, clean and spacious branch, number of cash counters, rush-free environment, enough parking space, then easy access, provide all financial services I need. These, you see, are you able to give a label or a name for all these variables together? That is the question. That is the quality, or that is the capacity of a researcher to name these variables looking at the feature of majority of the items. If you have a good understanding about the marketing literature, especially some marketing teachers are attending this program, they definitely will say this is something related to what? Tangibility in services marketing. Tangibility, that is tangibles. People are actually, all these factors are actually related to the tangibility part of banking companies. That is seating, interior, cleanness of bank, number of cash counters, parking space. These are related to tangibility, which is very closely related to the tangibility construct of the factor used by Parashuraman and Sitmal in their service quality model. Okay, you can put a name for that, label it. So if you are putting this as tangibility, for putting the label as tangibility, for the first one you give T1, second one T2, T3, T4, T5, T6 and so on. In your original data set, you have to modify the variable name as for comfortable seating arrangement, you give T1, good interior give T2 and so on. And you look at the second component is also very interesting. Excellent e-banking, high speed and clean ATMs, fully automated environment, always working in ATM, professionalism of bank management, knowledge of the staff regarding operations, readiness to give real-time service, a skill of the staff to deal with technology. Okay, but while putting all of them together, what is it? You give a name, label it. All these are actually related to technology. That is real-time service. These are related to technology. You can put it as technological factor. So label these factors are T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6 and so on in your original variable view, or in your label view. And the third factor is fast redressal mechanism, positivism of the staff, trustworthiness, genuineness. All these are actually very closely related. That is, we can consider them as trust. Okay, then another is, fourth variable is presence of staff who know me, readiness of the staff to speak to me, caring and helping mentality of the staff, staff with the ability to understand my needs, listening capacity of the staff. What does it mean? This is personalized care. People are looking for personalized care. So this can be labeled as personalized care, and you can create variable labels, that is PC1, PC2, PC3, and so on. Okay. That's what this factor analysis is. My dear friends, you always remember, all on a sudden, by listening to the class of any person, whoever be the teacher, it is practically impossible to understand everything in factor analysis. We have learned it after listening to the sessions of different experts and reading different materials, different articles done by experts. Only then we came to have some sort of understanding about factor analysis. So I humbly request all of you to read about factor analysis, then come up with some valuable questions. Then only I will answer to you. Definitely tomorrow we will upload some books dealing with factor analysis. Definitely great books, internationally acclaimed books will be uploaded so that you can read, you can download, and you can read. So then only I will say something about your queries. After immediately you remember, the process is not over. This is only a process. This must be reported in your thesis or in your paper. Some part of this must be reported in your paper or in your thesis. But you have to, this is actually the beginning of this is actually the end of a particular process, and we have to begin something new. That is, we have identified some factors. We have to create such factors in our database. How to create? That is another question. So moving on. Okay. First thing to be done by you is to make some modifications in your database. Okay. Factor number 1, seating arrangement. This I have told you, this is forming part of tangibility. So I put it as T1. Then good interior. Next one, that is T2. Then neat and clean. Okay, this one, PS16, that is T3. Then number of cash counters. Number of cash counters. Okay, this one, that is T4. Then a rush-free environment, that is T5. Then excellent mix of okay, this one, T6. Then customer-friendly atmosphere. Customer-friendly atmosphere. Okay, this one. That is T6. Then easy access. Okay. T rush free environment. Okay, that is T7. Easy access T8. Then provide all financial services. Then T9. Ten items are there. We have coded only 9. Excellent, enough parking space. Okay. That is also important. That is T10. Okay, all the 10 items are there. Save it. Okay, go to data view. Okay. We have to create the factor for tangibility. Go to transform, compute variable, write tangibility. Okay. We can have two different way. That is, we can have the summated scale or the average. I'm going for average. So mean within bracket. All T items are to be taken into account. You don't want to worry about the order. So the first one I am seeing is T3. Okay, all are there. Okay, hope all the 10 are there. Okay, all the 10 are there. You give okay. Go to the data set. You can see tangibility there as the last variable. See, tangibility. Now we have created it. Like this, you have to compute factor number 2, factor number 3, and factor number 4. That's all. So we have to discuss something more about how to present the data derived from factor analysis, how to make analysis, and so on in the next session. If you have some questions apart from factor analysis, today I will not say anything about factor analysis. You have to ask, you can ask questions from other sides. You have to read something in detail about factor analysis from the material we upload, or from some other materials which are actually available with you. Then you come and ask some questions, then only I will be able to answer to your queries. So today we have learned a lot of things, having huge applications. You have to do all sorts of exercises with the help of data available with you, or with the help of data created by you yourself. Okay, definitely we will give you a data set which can be used for analyzing or doing factor analysis, but it will take some time because it is not so easy for anyone to create a data set for making a valuable or meaningful factor analysis. So it will take some time, but even then you do whatever possible available with you. Okay, now it is the time for you guys to raise questions. No problem at all. Don't ask any question from factor. I will not speak to you about factor today. Okay. The first question is, can you explain the difference between convergent validity and nomological validity? The question is actually, I don't want to explain it because convergent validity simply refers to the relationship between different factors or different scales or different components, all are same, used for the construction of a construct. Say for example, if there are 5 different scales for the component or a component of a particular item, then the 5 components are to be correlated and see whether the correlations are significant. But in case of nomological, we are comparing the relationship of the components with another variable which is not at all related to or forming part of this thing. Say for example, I have done convergent validity by comparing the correlation of different components of CRMO with the business performance. Even though different components are there, we are actually checking whether the different components are correlated with the outcome variable, that is business performance. All others are useless in that context. Okay. Explain the interpretation of this normality test. Okay. Chaos test is applied for testing the normality. You know that. You simply look at the significance value. When the significance value is equal to or exceeding 0.05, the distribution you have checked the normality is normal. When the significance value is equal to or exceeding 0.05, the distribution is said to be normal, otherwise non-normal. That's all. That's because there is a null hypothesis set by the people who have developed this test. The null hypothesis is the distribution is normal with certain parameters. Okay. Some questions are actually related to factor analysis. The basic question definitely will be answered by me. All of the technical will be answered only after a genuine effort from your side. Otherwise, I will not tell you anything. Why factor analysis is a question. I have told you several times why we need factor analysis. Especially, I have done only exploratory factor analysis today. In case of exploratory factor analysis, we are actually doing or compelled to do exploratory factor analysis when we don't have an established theory explaining the components of a particular phenomenon. I have already told you, when you don't have a set of theory, established theory, explaining the different types of behaviors of financial behaviors of a person, and you have identified different features of or different variables related to the behavioral aspects of financial behavioral aspects of human being. So you may have a list of 30 or 40 or 50 variables. The first task before you is to compare between different variables you have identified and avoid those are very closely related. That is, you are reducing the number of variables after making comparison. Even then, you may have a large number of variables, maybe 25 or 30 variables there. It is practically impossible for you to carry on a valuable analysis using all the 25 or 30 variables. So you need to compress. You have to club them together, or you have to group them into different categories named as factor or factors. That is the purpose of factor analysis. Some advanced questions are coming, but I haven't taught you anything about R squared. So I don't want to speak to you about R squared. R squared is actually applied in case of a regression analysis. So at this point of time, I don't want to answer to this question. Definitely, I will come up with answers when while making presentation about multiple regression. Okay, EFA, CFA, don't want to say anything about it because I haven't told you anything about CFA, confirmatory factor analysis. Only EFA I have talked. The difference is that when confirmatory, the word itself is the difference. It is confirmatory. We are confirming whether these variables are, we are putting 10 or 12 or 8 or 6 variables and reconfirming whether these variables are forming one. That is the process of confirmatory factor analysis. Okay, normality I have already. Normality cannot be explained, cannot be checked using graph. It is for understanding the extent of normality only. Okay. How do we calculate overall reliability of a scale? Okay, that I haven't told you in the last class. Okay, that's a very simple process. Say if there are 5 different components for a particular construct, you put all the valid statements together for reliability. All the variables or all the statements together. That is only those statements which are used for constructing different scales. Some of them may be deleted or avoided. Avoided ones are not to be taken into account. You have to take all of them together and find the reliability. You will get a common Cronbach alpha. You can take it as the Cronbach alpha for the construct. You remember, if you have some scales which are not forming part of the construct, that is, say for example, in our today's session, I have already told you, business performance is a scale which is an outcome of customer centricity, and we have different scales for customer centricity. While doing or while ascertaining the overall reliability, you don't want to put the statements belonging to or used for assessing the business performance. Those statements which are used for measuring the different components of customer centricity are to be put together, and reliability is ascertained. The use of that particular test is to identify the overall reliability. Okay, that's all. Okay, in the last assignment, Cronbach alpha, if item deleted was blank after removing items greater than alpha value, how may I know what to do? Okay, you don't want to do anything more. That's the problem of the minimum number of statements are required. Okay, when it is less than 3, definitely the Cronbach alpha will not appear. That's the problem. Okay. Is there any other open source software for SPSS? Is a paid software that is not open source, but there are some open source softwares which are available for doing analysis. Definitely. Okay, sir, how can I correct the data set to make the normal distribution? Normally in social science, even though the sample is collected properly, data set may not be normal. Okay, the question is a very vital question faced by almost all researchers. Even if you are collecting data by taking all remedial measures, all care, sometimes the data may not be normal. There are two reasons. One thing is the population may not be normal. Another thing is that your sample may not be exactly random. That is the most important problem. Population normally will be normal, but when the complete randomness is not there, the collected data, the scales may not be normal. Researcher can't do anything. We can go for some techniques which are applicable to non-normal distributions. Correcting data is unethical. That's important. I will not suggest such a thing. Why we are not taking variable whose reliability value is more than, when you please don't think interpret the word reliability in literary sense. Cronbach alpha, you are getting a Cronbach alpha if item deleted. That is also important. If items deleted, if that particular item deleted, the overall Cronbach alpha of the scale will be improved. So your objective is to improve the overall Cronbach alpha or the reliability. That's why we are rejecting. Okay, if that particular item is rejected, then only the Cronbach alpha will be improved. Okay, question is good.